Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and I'm going to start this video by doing something a bit different, a bit of meditation. Yes, that's right, I want you, yes, you at home to close your eyes, breathe deeply in through your nose, hold it for 2 seconds and exhale slowly, trying not to imagine how horrible Ash Millman's scriptwriting is. Don't even think about it, just ignore it, There we go. Feeling chill? Well, good, because we're about to get an absolute rage boner about rage quitting, and I didn't want any of you getting a heart attack and then trying to sue me. Yes, that's right, today we're talking about games that made us put down the controller and walk away calmly, and by that I mean screaming and putting the controller down through the goddamn wall. Yet, like a sadistic dentist, we're going to drill down into the pain and showcase the exact moments that cause so many gamers to cry out in despair. I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 exact video game moments that made fans rage quit. Number 10, the tutorial, Driver. If you were a little tyke when the legendary PS1 game Driver came out, there's a good chance that you had a pretty awful experience when first booting up this title, as the tutorial was like the thing's penis, rock hard. The tutorial required the player to execute a number of flashy vehicular maneuvers to prove their mettle. However, the shopping list of tricks isn't at all explained, which is especially problematic if you're a kid with no idea of what slalom means, and the conditions to tick off a successful maneuver are infuriatingly strict. I mean, luckily there's no time limit, right? Oh wait, yes, there bloody was, and it's always nail-bitingly close even if you do manage to smash the goals with style. The weirdest thing is that the game is actually pretty lax after this harsh introduction, but it likely put off a load of younger players from the start. Still though, what a game, am I right? I mean, I can still smell the rubber burning. Oh no, wait, I think I'm having a stroke. Number 9, The Trial of Archimedes, God of War Ascension. Ascension features by far the most challenging sequence in the God of War series, the infamous Trial of Archimedes, an endurance test so brutally punishing that many reviewers leveled their criticisms at it. In fact, so many that it was effectively nerfed with a patch. As the player climbs a tower towards Ascension's endgame, they're forced to battle waves of increasingly difficult enemies, and to make matters worse, there are no checkpoints nor any health or magic orbs to be found. And yes, if you fail, you're sent right back to the start. SCE Santa Monica Studio were forced to deliver a patch 2 weeks after release, which doled out orbs after each wave to make the challenge more manageable. It still didn't add any checkpoints, but at least it allowed players to, actually finish the game. Number 8, Blighttown, Dark Souls. Fans of the Dark Souls series frequently deem these games to be like my parenting method with Ewan, tough but fair. If you don't do your homework, it's 2 hours in the fridge. That's pretty reasonable, right? Though many of these same cheerleaders likely found themselves putting down the game for weeks or even months once they'd reached the dreaded Blighttown area. This was a locale that pretty much reflected its namesake in that it was utterly shitty to the player base, with tons of perilous walkways, more swampy poison than my ass after an all-laxative diet, and those asshole blow-dart-firing enemies that just, oh god, my veins, oh they're a-poppin', brother! Things weren't helped by the abysmal console performance in this area, dipping into the slideshow frame rate in places. Luckily, this was remedied in the subsequent patches and the brilliant remaster. It's also a saving grace that at least half of this area is actually optional, but for a long old while there was a reason why even saying the name Blighttown would cause a shudder around many a bonfire. Number 7, Chapter 13, Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 is, for the most part, one of the easiest and breeziest entries in the smash hit RPG franchise. That is, until players arrive at the infamously infuriating Chapter 13 late in the game. Now, it's not so much that Chapter 13 is difficult, because it's really not too tough, but it's that it acts as an inversion to everything this game was supposedly about. Tight linear corridors with so many irritating things that it felt like absolute hell. The chapter, which clocks in at around 3 hours, takes away the player's other party members and strips Noctis of all of his weapons. The level is a soulless, seemingly never-ending barrage of beige corridors as you attempt to locate keycards to progress further, all the while evading enemies that you can't even run away from. Quite why Square Enix felt that it was worthwhile taking away the lush open worlds and firing players down a linear track for a solid 10% of the main game's quest is anyone's guess. Now, director Tabata claims that the frustration was an intentional part of the game's design to make the player feel hopeless and disenfranchised, but clearly it was a step too far when players were literally piecing out. Square Enix did eventually patch Chapter 13 by allowing Noctis to jog slowly, buffing the ring that he's left with and presenting an alternate 20-minute path for players who'd already completed the game, but coming some 4 months after Final Fantasy XV hit the stores, for many players it was too little, too late. Number 6. Protecting Natalya, Goldeneye 007. Goldeneye is often singled out as one of the greatest ever video games adapted from a movie, though let's be honest, that's probably more to do with the sublime multiplayer suite than the single player, as in places, well, it was absolutely infuriating. And by that, I mean that it's really just one area. One annoying, won't get out of the way of enemy fire area. I would rather babysit a nuclear reactor than Natalya, as trying to stop this dolt from wandering into the firefight was much more dangerous to my health than having my skin literally melt off. Her AI is shambolic and pretty much seems to want to protect the guards that you're shooting rather than herself, because she goddamn well stands by them a lot more than she does try to use cover. In fact, I've not seen a woman this hungry for my PPK since your mum starred in her James Bond porn parody, The Spy Who Shagged Everyone. This culminates in the legendary tough control level, where the player has to spend a few minutes fending off a fleet of enemies from several directions, all the while Natalya is hacking a computer terminal. Making it through this was such a relief. And if you watch speedrunners taking on the game today, note how they abuse the AI or lead her in specific paths to get around how poorly programmed she was. Number 5. The High Road, Crash Bandicoot. As lame as it is to quote myself, I will once again dust off my immortal line of the High Road, as it perfectly sums up what is quite easily the most rage-inducing moment of the first Crash Bandicoot game. Now, if you're being a purist, the original version was bad enough, with its floating pigs and flaws that looked like they had the structural integrity of Josh Brown's wafer-thin body, but the remaster actually made things worse. Much has been said about how the remaster changed Crash's jumping, and because of this, he got weirdly slippery shoes, and it meant that you could plummet to your death despite thinking that you'd lined everything up right. And those turtles, honest to God, it felt like somebody was tightening a vice around my head each and every time a bounce wouldn't take me the distance. This isn't even your climate, pal, so please do one. Even the get-around of using the ropes was weirdly inconsistent because of the changes, so yes, 99 lives plus went down the drain on this bastard. Number 4. The Batmobile battles, Batman Arkham Knight. Fans were initially elated when they'd learned that they'd be able to ride the Batmobile around Gotham in Batman Arkham Knight. After all, since its tease in the first game, it was all fans were talking about. That was until the game actually came out. Though there's an undeniable novelty factor to careening around Gotham's streets in the Caped Crusader's iconic wheels, the sense of fun quickly wears off as it becomes clear the game doesn't really have much interesting or fun for the Batmobile to do. All it seems concerned with is putting the Batmobile in everything. The Riddler missions, the tank battles, and it was slower in many ways than simply gliding. So what was the point? The difficulty of the tank battles was especially bad because it felt like they were chores rather than exciting set pieces, and as a result a huge backlash was experienced and many players turned off the game and went back to City or Asylum for their kicks. Number 3. The Damn, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Damn, god damn, this area sure was appropriately named, because this might well be the moment that so many kids from the 80s found out that life just is crushingly unfair for no reason whatsoever. I am one of these kids. I had no real gaming experience when I played this on my dad's NES back in the day, and I was so confused as to why I kept dying over and over. And then, when I asked my dad to help, I just had to witness him rage out completely. Now, as an adult myself, I can see how utterly brutal the design of this area is. The seaweed annihilates your health, the lasers require pinpoint timing, and that time limit, it is utterly ridiculous. I've heard tales of people never seeing past this level, and I can totally understand why, having gone through the rigors myself. Number 2. Wrong Side of the Tracks, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So here's the thing, if I were to have my own way, I would have put supply lines on as this entry. But even though that mission is like having your world burned by the Space Wolves, sorry, oh, I couldn't keep a straight face there, go Russ, that mission is completely optional. And speaking of optional, if you like board game content and Warhammer, then come check out my side project, Live and Let's Dice. It's backed by WhatCulture, but is a passion project for board game fans all across the country. Anyway, it's off the list, but you know what isn't and that you cannot avoid? Wrong Side of the Tracks. The mission seems relatively simple on paper. Get on a motorcycle with Big Smoke and chase the train, allowing Big Smoke to shoot up the gang members on board. However, it's a much trickier task than that due to the targets being stood atop a train, making it difficult for Smoke to land any shots, not to mention the moving target factor. As such, just about everybody failed this mission countless times, resulting in them hearing Big Smoke berate them with the one-liner that has now since become a meme: "All you had to do was follow the damn train, CJ." The irony, of course, is that you probably were doing just fine, but this bloated, betraying whale on the back of your bike is the one thing that's failing to do his bloody job, because it really should be, "All you had to do was shoot in a straight line, Smoke." And number 1, getting a blue shell just before the finish line, Mario Kart 8. And finally, how could we forget about everyone's favourite character? Sorry, that definitely should be item, the bane of every Mario Kart player's existence, the blue shell. We've all been there, right? We're decisively in first place and racing towards the finish line only for a blue shell to zoom over our heads and destroy us mere feet from the checkered flag. Cue numerous racers skating by us, stealing first, second, maybe even third place, leaving you lucky to get a podium position at all. And it's here, as skill takes a backseat to luck, we almost want to quit the experience entirely. And the most impactful thing is that it's happened to all of us. It's like a rage-building bonding experience, meaning that while it is likely to make you rage quit, you might even find comfort in seeing it as a hazing that everyone goes through. And there we go, those were 10 exact video game moments that made fans rage quit. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. But before you go, my friends, and hopefully go off to have a great day, I just want to say one thing. It is easy in life to rage quit something, to get so overwhelmed by something that it makes you angry. But you know what is very okay? Instead of wasting all of your energy trying to fight these problems, sometimes it is easier to take a step back and assess the situation. Figure out what you can and you cannot control, and trust me, that will put things into perspective. And remember, you are not alone with your problems. You can speak to people about this because people do care way much more than you might realise. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!